Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner. This podcast is all about taking a few moments for yourself and reconnecting to the amazing woman behind the title of mom. You have so many plates spinning at any given time between your kids, your partner, your job, maintaining a household, etc., etc. But where does taking time just for you play into that? Let's spend some time together, you and me, right now. We're rebranding a mom moment to those sacred moments you take to fill your cup first. Let's connect, tune in, and tap into what makes us the incredible women that we are. We'll nurture ourselves first so we can be our best selves for those we pour into on a daily basis. We'll also bask in the beautiful wisdom of other moms to learn about the ways in which they've tapped into alignment in their own motherhood journeys. Come on, mama, it's your time. We're having a mom moment. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner, and I am just so excited you're here. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. And if you are a regular listener, thank you so much. You being here means more than you know. Before I introduce this week's guest, just a reminder that if you need an unbiased ear or a third-party cheerleader to share some ideas or just to kind of talk out what you're going through right now, I'm available for that. There is a link in the show notes for a session just to chat with me. No pressure, no obligation of any kind. And even if you don't know what you need right now, that's okay. We can just hang out for a little bit. So that link is in the show notes for you. And if none of those times work for you and you really need someone to talk to, send me an email and we'll figure something else out. In this episode, my guest, Kelly Tibbitts, references the Wheel of Life that I shared in episode 43, which was the replay of the first session of the Tune In and Tune Up workshop that I hosted in February. So that offer to grab that Wheel of Life worksheet is still available. I'll drop the link for that in the show notes as well. It's a great opportunity to kind of check in with yourself and see what areas we could maybe put a little bit more love into. Again, that link is there for you in the show notes. And if you want to follow along for the first session of the 2024 Tune In and Tune Up workshop, go back to episode 43 and you can do just that. This week, my guest is Kelly Tibbitts. Kelly is a life coach, speaker, Enneagram coach, and working genius coach with over 25 years of leadership experience. Her years as an educator and executive pastor allowed Kelly to create a path to help you live in aligned energy in every season. Having seen massive life change after working with her first coach, Kelly has dedicated her life to serve people who want to have relationships that flourish and live out their dreams. So in this conversation, Kelly gives us a rundown of the Enneagram, but it's so much more than that. So if you have no idea what she's talking about, or you're pretty well versed in the Enneagram, there's still really good stuff in here for you. I hope you love the episode. Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I'm excited for this conversation ever since I found out about your zones of genius, because I think you have more than one. But could you start by telling us a bit about your own motherhood journey?
Oh, I'd love to. So yeah, I became a mom in 1996. My oldest daughter is 28, my middle daughter is 25, and my baby is 23. And so they've all grown and flown the nest. And I started out my career as an educator. So I had the opportunity to be in their they went to a little Christian school, and I was the kindergarten teacher, and they were in first, third, and fifth grade. And we would come in together, and I would be able to make their lunches, and we'd start off the morning together. And I loved my season of being a stay-at-home mom before they went off to school, and then I got to be a children's pastor and work on the weekends, and they helped me and helped learn really their own leadership skills by partnering with me there. And so I loved being a mom. I'm the kind who loved making homemade Play-Doh and doing the big Easter egg event, and so I loved everything about being a mom of young kids. And then really began my own self-development path as they were maturing. So around 2003, I discovered a book by Henry Cloud called Boundaries and realized I didn't have any. And that really helped me begin to be somebody who wasn't constantly overwhelmed, exhausted, and depleted. And I was like a good mom 80% of the time, and 20% of the time I was a really scary mom because I was past my energy and I would just lose it. And they have, stories to tell of me like hitting the ground because the vacuum cleaner got broken, or being really sad because I had been invited to a leadership event and had to stay home because my husband traveled and they were younger. And so I have all the experiences that most moms have of like the moments of pure joy and the moments of you lose yourself and you become, just a shell of who you could be. And that was the path I was on until my oldest daughter, when she was 16 years old, went to a conference and heard somebody speak that reminded her of me. And she said, "Mom, I think you could be a speaker. What do you want to be?" We're almost grown. She was a junior in high school at that point. I'm like, "Oh, I don't have any more dreams. I wanted to get married and I wanted to go to college and I wanted to go to Ireland and I want, and I did my thing. So now I'm 43 and I'll just die slowly." And she was like, "No, you're not doing that. You're going to go figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life." And so I found my way to my first life coach and lots of different things that helped me grow in my own self-awareness, which is really what I was lacking. I was not a self-aware human. I didn't know why I thought or felt or did life the way I did. And so that path led me to the Enneagram and other, key self-development things. I began to find teachers who poured life into me. I went to conferences, read lots of books, and really decided that I'd like to spend the rest of my life encouraging and equipping moms with the tools they need so that they can live a vibrant life. And that doesn't mean without sadness or without frustration. It's enjoying all of the feelings, right? The picture behind me is my picture of a vibrant life, and it's all these little different colors represent different feelings. And I think that's the reality of being human. There is beauty in the grief and the sadness. And I used to try to prevent them from feeling that instead of allowing it and teaching them. So I'm very thrilled of the healthy relationship we have now and the way that my self-growth has really benefited them in their own lives, but also us as these healthy adult-adult relationships emerged. And so, yeah, I love any chance to talk to moms about how important it is to grow in self-awareness and to take really good care of yourself.
I love all of this. So much to unpack here. It is uncanny the number of former teachers that end up on the podcast.
Yes.
Also a former teacher. And it's like, this isn't even planned, but I think it's something in the energetic. I don't know what
Absolutely.
it is. We keep bumping
Yes.
into each other all the time.
Yeah.
So interesting. But can we go back to the 80%, 20%? Yeah. Like, that is really vulnerable and so powerful. And I'm so glad you said it, because I think it resonates for a lot of listeners where we're like, I'm good a lot of the time, but when I'm not good, I am really not doing well.
Yeah, I was telling you, I was listening to one of your podcasts and you were talking about the life wheel. And I think that would have served me so much if someone had come alongside me when I was 30, 35 years old and said, "Let's just fill this out together." And do you notice that the less energy you put into your own life, the less you have to give? And I just had never learned that. I'd been grown up around different women who looked like all they did, my moms, my aunts, the people, my mom's friends, looked like all they did was give. I didn't see them really taking good care of themselves. I didn't see them like going on their girls' week vacation so they could come back refueled. I didn't see them putting aside an hour on the weekend to pour back into themselves. So I didn't really have a lot of examples. And I'm so thankful that my daughters do, because if we don't learn that we can't give out of an empty cup, that was like life altering to me, right? We go on the plane and they say, you have to put the oxygen mask on first, because moms don't want to do that. We want to put the oxygen mask on the kid, and then neither of us are okay. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know, figure out what you need emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and then go do that. And then when you're in a very healthy energy, then you have something to give. But don't try to keep living a life where I'm giving from exhaustion and depletion. It didn't serve me, didn't serve them. It made me into a very grumpy, resentful person who could present happy, right? Mm-hmm. I used to work at a church, and I would see this all the time where families are like squabbling all the way to the church door, and then they're like, "Good morning." Oh my and gosh. You see that at school drop off or just different basketball events. Like, it's just very easy to go past your limits when you're not self-aware. And it's very hard without a community around you or someone that you trust to grow in your own self-care. Self-care is not selfish. You and I know this is what we're out there trying to share. The best moms are going to be the ones who take care of themselves first so that they have something to offer their family. So that might be a little way for you to notice if you're not taking good care of yourself, is you're like, yeah, I'm at like a 70, 80, 90% enjoying this path. But man, the 15% that's exhausted, depleted, is resentful, is frustrated, is angry. And that's part of life. You're going to have those moments. But if it's on repeat, maybe it's time to just pause and pour back into your own soul.
Yes, so important. And I know some of us speaking from experience, let it go so far that you're like,
Yeah.
I'm just so
I don't even know
tapped
where to
out.
start.
Exactly. You don't know where to start. And I
Yeah,
remember hearing things like, oh, you need to do this. I'm like, I don't even know what I like anymore.
I know.
what do I do? What are my hobbies? I don't even know. So what do you suggest to somebody if they are listening right now and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
all well and good, ladies, but I'm
Yeah.
totally lost.
So, one of the key things we noticed, so I have a business partner who's helping me launch my coaching program. We discovered that energy is not one thing. So, our whole life we had heard, like, get up first thing in the morning and go exercise. And that is fantastic for people who wake up with physical energy. But I happen to wake up with mental energy. And so, I'm really good at, like, thinking about my podcast or writing content first thing in the morning. But I don't get physical energy to like early morning, middle of the day. Most of us have no idea at all about our emotional energy and how that fluctuates. So I would say the first thing is just notice, find a journal or a notebook around your house, take out your notes app, and just notice for like 3 to 5 days, maybe a week, what happens to you during the day. Okay, I wake up and I could not solve a complicated math problem if my life depended on it. But I'd really love to go lift some weights or go run. Like you might have some physical energy in the morning. Or you might notice my social energy takes a bit. So that's why when the kids are first up and they're a lot, I don't have anything for them because I just don't have any social emotional energy in the morning. But it comes around 10. And my business partner, Ellen, her big aha is she ran out of emotional energy in the evening. And that was when her teenagers, early, 20s really wanted to talk. But once she told them, they were so kind and considerate about that. They'd do something like call her and say, hey, mom, I know this is not your best time. Just wanted to leave this out here. Could we find a time to chat? Our kids really do want, especially as they get older, the kind of relationships that are healthy. So as you grow in self-awareness and you communicate that, generally the healthy people that you have in relationship with you, they want that for you. They want to like work with you in your healthy moments. So my first step is always just notice. You actually have different types of energy. Notice how it fluctuates. If I spend all day with my family of origin, who I love, my mom, my aunts, my cousins, boy, I'm really emotionally depleted when that's over. But if I spend an afternoon with that friend of mine who really pours into me, my emotional energy is really high. How interesting, right? Just noticing without judgment. And then finding one or two small skills that help refuel you. So sometimes when you're physically tired, you need a nap, but sometimes you need yoga. Sometimes when you're mentally tired, you need to be listening to an audiobook, but sometimes you need no like screen time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so nuanced, you have to notice yourself. So it's noticing what life looks like for you, where you are, and not judging yourself. You know what? Today, I'm at like 20% emotional energy. I can't handle that phone call with that person who every time they call, it's like I'm their unpaid therapist. I'm going to have to, from a place of self-love, say, can we catch up next week?
Yeah.
But my physical energy is good. I'm going to go hit that project that's been on my to-do list. I think skills like that are life-changing.
That's so interesting. I don't know why I didn't consider that. I feel like I know that I feel it, but like, oh no, these are
Mm,
actually separate arenas that we're
they're
playing in.
separate. Yeah.
Yes. And like you said, notice without judgment, observe
Mm,
for a few days and notice without judgment. And then imagine the ways that you can leverage that in your life
right.
where everybody around you benefits, right? Not only you, but
Yes.
everybody does.
Right.
Wow. I love that. It's so simple. That's
It
what
is
so
so
much of this
simple.
is. It's like, oh, it's
I
all
know.
simple, but it's like so impactful.
It's so simple, but because it's not part of our neural pathway, it's not how we've been thinking for 20 years, we might hear it today and be like, yes, and then forget by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think, like, any way that you can remind yourself, whether it's your journal, whether it's a sticky note, but then remember your brain's going to see it as kind of clutter and stop looking at it. So, say you write a sticky note today, notice your mental energy because you have something really important. You want to write a book, you want to write a blog post, you want to be a podcaster. Move the sticky note. Put it in front of your
Mm.
computer one day, put it next to your bathroom the next day so that you can really start to notice. But we want to fix everything at once, and that will never work. Pick one thing. I'm emotionally depleted. I need to stop allowing people into my energy for a bit while I recover my social energy. I've been physically sick for 2 weeks. I need to invest in the vitamins and the rest and maybe like really slow workouts until I feel strong again. Like one small step is always going to be the path back to health.
Mm. So good. I love that so much. And I know sometimes, and you started talking about boundaries, and you're talking, I don't have the capacity for this person and their
Yeah,
conversation right now, and giving yourself the grace and permission to set those boundaries. You're
right,
not telling them to get lost forever. You're just not available for it
right.
right now. And the power when we do that for ourselves and model that for not only our children, but the people we're interacting with, like, oh, it is safe
Yes.
for us to place boundaries in this relationship.
And I need to say, one of the things that changed my life, I went to life coach school for 13 months, and I learned that when you are saying yeses, but you really mean no, what that people pleasing is, it's actually lying, right?
Ooh.
And that was so freeing for me. And so when I learned that every human has the right to think any thought, feel any feeling. So if my daughter says to me, "Hey mom, love you so much, can't really talk for the next 2 weeks, have a big project at work." I have two choices. I can say, "Oh, she owes me time because I'm her mom." Or I can say, "How wonderful and powerful of her." And those thoughts are going to create different feelings in my body. And
Mm.
so when I discovered I don't make people feel bad, I don't make people feel unloved, they always have the choice to say, "Good for her," putting that boundary in place, advocating for herself. That's going to fill them with like love and powerful energy. And those the kind of relationships that we need to be in more, right? When someone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you made me feel unloved." Great news. No one can make you feel unloved. You get the
Right.
power thought that I'm 100% loved and this
Right.
person needs to recover. Hopefully, if they were physically sick, you'd be kind and say, "Oh, of course, stay home, get better."
Right.
Same thing for "I'm emotionally depleted." Oh, good for you advocating for yourself. Go rest, go spend that time that you need, even if it is with somebody other than me. Because that's the nuance of relationships. Some relationships, you might love that person 100%. But when you're together, for whatever reason, because you think and feel and do life so differently, the interchange can be a little bit exhausting for you. And so
Mm-hmm.
you get to decide, "I love you and I'm going to
Ooh.
say no right now." It's it's
Yes.
it's it's powerful.
Yes. Ooh. And echoing our shared teacher mentor, Kathy
Yes.
Heller, who they get to have
Yes.
their experience, right? Like
They
you get to
do.
decide for yourself, and whoever's on the other end of that gets to have their experience. And it doesn't matter what you do to try to impact their experience, it's going to be their own.
It's so important. I'm a mom of adult children. And so one of the worst things that's happened for my generation is the phone has the ability to track each other. So my
Oh,
mom could not track me in the 90s and the
right,
80s when
right.
I was out, but I can see where they are at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was on Kathy Heller's Abundant Ever After program with one of the teachers named Terry Cole, who wrote Boundary Boss. And she
Oh,
actually responded to my question when I said, like, "What am I supposed to do? It's not healthy, da da." And she said, "Know you're doing it from a place of love, but who are you to know what they came here to learn?" And when I'm inserting myself into their energy, thinking I know what's theirs to learn, like my mom should not have stepped in, and she couldn't have, there wasn't the technology back then, to
right,
what I was learning in my 20s. And so that's really
right.
served me a lot as I'm trying to pull apart, because it's so hard. For so many years, when you're the mom of a young child, you're connected, you're together all the time. And then there's no like marking spot of, actually, they're supposed to do all of this without your input because this is how
Right,
they grow into their own version of healthy. So,
right.
yeah, all of this work is so important. It's so nuanced, and it's so
Mhm.
great when you can have a community or other voices in your ear to help you learn these new thoughts and repeat them enough till they start to grow. Like I love right now behind you are all these beautiful plants that
Mhm.
started as small seeds,
Yeah.
and it took watering and it took repeating watering for them to grow healthy. And so that's what I really want, is to be able to support moms with these new thoughts that maybe they never thought before. If you rest really well, you're going to have abundant energy to give. If you
Yeah.
get exhausted and depleted, it might take quite a while for you to recover. So maybe rest while you're tired rather than when you get exhausted and depleted and overwhelmed.
Oh, right. And we talked about people pleasing, and I have an episode coming up this week about overachieving moms and what that looks like, especially when you return to work. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it has felt safe for us for so long to be like, I'm just going to do all the things, and
Yeah.
then no one will get mad at me.
Right.
But, and then powering through when you're depleted and exhausted because you feel like you have no choice, but just taking some of your power back and being like, I'm only available for this right now. Can we
Right.
revisit that tomorrow, in 2 days, next week?
It's so hard until it's not, until you have the aha moment that if I overgive, not only am I not serving the people I want to serve, I might be creating in me a depletion level that takes twice as long, 3 times as long. I tried to help my children with this when they were in high school and college. If they started to notice they were feeling a little sick, if they could stay home then and recover, they weren't finding themselves with mono or having to miss 3 weeks because they went so far past. And I think, once COVID happened and we all returned home, we started to see that like, oh, when you're sick, if you stay home, not only do you get better faster, you're not making everyone in your space ill as
Right.
well, right?
Yes.
But it's hard to remember because you can feel like you're the only person that can do that. You're the only person at work that can step in and finish the project. You're the only person who can get your kids' project, classroom. I was everything. I'm working part-time. My kids were in all kinds of activities. I'm the room mom, and I'm getting more and more sick because I was paying no attention to me. Once
Right.
I just turned the table just a little bit, what do I need? Oh, I need rest. Oh, I need time away. Oh, I need to go to a conference and refuel.
Yeah.
Everything turned for all of us, right? Instead of setting the example of women were created to just go past our boundaries and serve everybody else, my 3 daughters now stand as like authorities in their own life, and they say really good yeses and nos. And I think
Love that.
what's so fun is being part of the community like Kathy Heller and other communities I'm in. I think women are starting to want this. We want to be in communities with other women who are like, yes, I'm agreeing with you right now, stay home. Or I'm agreeing
Right.
with you, go on that trip.
Right. And you have the power too to change your environment.
Yeah.
If you're in a place of work and you're like, huh, we're really misaligned here. It's not a you problem. Like there's nothing wrong with
No.
you. Take it as an opportunity to find something else. I know that can be easier said than done, but
And
even
no, but
just
it
giving yourself
is.
permission,
It
right?
is. I told my daughters, if you are at, because I had to learn this the hard way, but I'm so thankful I learned it. If you are at a work environment and they do not see and honor the gifts in you, leave. Don't
Yep.
spend any energy trying to change that. Now, if you're in leadership, your job is to be really good at being self-aware and authentic and open, right? But if you're
Mm,
working for a leader who's not authentic or open, it's so important for you to believe there is more than enough in this world. You will find
yeah.
another place to land. Don't allow yourself to stay in a place where that like beautiful light in you is not seen and honored. So I'm so glad that you did a podcast on that. It's
Mm.
so important.
Yes, yes. And if you stay long enough, speaking from experience, you start to believe whatever mixed messaging that you've been receiving while you're there, even if it's not actually true. You're like, well, I know I bring XYZ to the table, but no one here is recognizing that. And
I
I'm not
know.
being noticed, or my skills aren't being embraced, and I'm not being empowered to take action, or, no one is seeing me for me. And what am I doing? And if I have to fix the spreadsheet one more time, I'm going to go crazy, except I won't go crazy here because I have to keep it all buttoned up. But when I get home, I'm going to lose
Right.
my mind. Right.
Yes.
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 Ooh. Oh my gosh. I love that you're seeing it in your adult children. And
Oh my goodness.
I just echo it over and over again. Like, I have two daughters. I have two daughters. If nothing else, they are not going to repeat the patterns of people pleasing and not standing in their power and not speaking their truth. And the martyrdom, whether they choose to be mothers or not, the martyrdom of it all.
It's so powerful. So my middle daughter, she's 25, moved her role twice because both times she said, here's the pieces that I love. These are the pieces that I don't. Here's where it's not aligning with like seeing the value in me. And she tripled her salary from graduation to 25 because she knew who she was, what she was great at. And so just because she was in a female body, they were giving her these roles that she's like, this is not what I want to do. I'm excellent at this and I want to do that. And she advocated for herself. And so I do think your daughters are going to grow up in a world where they are surrounded by people who keep saying that to them. Like martyrdom, this is how I describe it. Don't get paid in praise. Don't
Mm.
allow yourself to be limited because someone says, oh, you're so good at that. Like we don't pay men in praise. We pay them in
Nope.
money. We pay them in stock. Like women need to rise up to, I am going to be paid for the value that I bring to the table. And if I'm at a table where that value is not seen, it's time for me to move along. And don't give any energy to frustration and anger and resentment. Use that. Anger is such a good emotion. Anger
Mm.
says a boundary has been crossed. So if you
Yes.
present for a meeting and everyone's disrespecting you, you should feel angry. That is 100% the right response. Now, choose to not be on repeat in
Mm.
a situation
Right.
where that's going to keep happening because it's such a depleting emotion. It's so exhausting to be angry all the time. But don't pretend that you're not just because you're in a female body. Like it is such good information when you're inside, you're somatically saying to yourself, I'm angry. And know what
Yeah.
that feels like for you. Some of us, it's in our chin. Some of us can feel it in our temples, sometimes in our stomach, sometimes in our hands. And that has been a tremendous gift. If I could go back in time as a kindergarten teacher and explain to these small children, okay, you're feeling a feeling, a thought came in your head, it made a vibration in your body. Where is it? Let's just be with it for a moment. It'll move through. What was it trying to teach us? I wish all these things were available then, but I'm so
Right.
thankful the tools are available now.
Right. I don't think it's any mistake that we found that,
I
I
know.
too, I wish I could say I was like your daughter and I was like, this isn't a good fit and I'm going to leave and I'm going to triple my salary along the way. I am almost 38 and I've had two adult jobs in my life because I
Yeah.
stayed at each one too long,
Yeah.
instead of when I knew it was not the right fit. I learned eventually and I would not put up with it now, but
And that's the beauty as well.
yeah,
I'm much more similar to you, but we got to become this version of us by learning along the way. And it took us what it took us because we
yeah,
didn't have the person ahead of us. There, I'm 54. I look back to like in the 70s, women weren't even allowed a credit card
right.
without a male cosigner. So how far, women have had to work and fight. I don't know if you've seen like Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie of
I
how
haven't
hard
yet.
she had to fight
Yeah.
to be seen and recognized. So you, of course, did the very best you could, but you're
Hmm.
bringing all of that wisdom to your daughters and to everyone who listens to this. So
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
exchange of energy at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I've had to in working through this realize like it's my story and I'm not going to beat myself up for it because that doesn't serve anybody, right? It doesn't
Right,
serve
right.
me, doesn't
Yep.
serve my children who are looking at me. It doesn't serve whatever your platform is, whether it's just your group of friends or you have a podcast or you have social media or you just have, coworkers and that listen to you. Like it matters. It matters to
Hmm.
everybody that
Yeah,
it's your story and what can you do with it, right?
right.
Mhm. Oh, this is so good already. I love it so much. I know you wear lots of hats, right? Life coach, speaker, Enneagram coach, working genius coach. Can we dig into Enneagram?
I would love to.
Because in 2017, I went back and I fact checked myself on this. I have the email from my first
Oh,
Enneagram,
great. Yep.
yeah, exploration, and it was in 2017. My daughter was about 7 months old, and I think that
Mm,
was really when I started to feel like I'm losing myself. I'm sliding.
mm.
Who am I? Maybe Enneagram will tell me. So let's like start at the beginning. If we don't know what Enneagram is, what it does, why we need it, what
Yeah.
is it?
So the Enneagram is an ancient personality typing system, but if you've done any kind of personality work, a lot of corporations like to bring it to the table, but then they don't go deep with it. So you end up with like a sticker or a phrase. So Myers-Briggs might tell you whether you're more introverted or extroverted. And that just means how does your energy get refueled? And everything is a continuum. So you're not like solidly on one thing or the other. But in general, my three daughters know that they can present as extroverts. They look like people who get energy from people, but they're all introverts. So they have really good practices to refuel their own soul.
Hmm.
The Enneagram says that as a human, you think and you feel and you do. The Enneagram gives you like a little language. At my company, we call it a manual of me. Like if you could open a book and say, why does Shannon do this? Oh, this is what she's longing for the world to say. This is what she's afraid of. So as an Enneagram 2, there's 9 different paths. I'm a 2. I'm looking for the world to say, Kelly, you are loved and wanted. And the problem is if I surround myself with really broken people who don't even know how to fill their own cup, they will not have anything to pour into me. But if I know I'm 100% loved, 100% valued just for breathing in and breathing out, I'm meeting my own core desire, my own core need. And when that's done, I can move on the path to health. So, an unhealthy 2 is a mom is looking for her children to succeed and then, use that to fill her up, to call all the time, to visit all the time. Oh, yes, mom, you're so loved. Here's a gift. If I raise healthy self-aware children, they're going to say no thank you, which is what mine have done, and I'm so thankful for that. Like if you can come home for the Christmas holiday, fabulous. If you have a busy life, that doesn't mean you don't love me any less. Why would you love me any less? I'm 100% loved. That's who I am. And so when you know these 9 different ways of thinking, feeling, and doing life, you understand yourself, but then you suddenly have a lot of grace because you realize, oh, other people think and feel and do life differently. So, what path did that test? Now, you were a young mom, so that sometimes skews the answers, but what number did it present to you?
A one.
Okay, and how true
Yeah.
does that feel that you want to do the right thing for the right reason?
Pretty true, pretty true. And I do go to therapy, and my therapist is very much in the Enneagram, and she was like feeling me out, and she was like, I think you're a one. And I was like, I think you're right. So it's
Well, the
still
ones have a tell. The one is the only one with the tell.
really,
So, the tell is the ones have an inner critic.
oh, yeah.
So a little voice inside that's like, now why'd you do that? Why didn't you do that? And then if I bring a one into a room, so you're in a room right now, would you be able to tell me 1, 2, 3 things that are not perfect in that room?
Oh,
Something
surely.
that could
Yeah.
be.
Would you like 5 or 10? I mean,
And so once you know that, isn't it interesting that other people not only don't have that inner critic, they're not noticing any of those things.
I didn't know that. I've not gone deep enough, obviously. Wow. Huh.
So ones are walking through life and you are in the gut center, right? So so you think, feel, do. You somatically process life. So in your gut, you're like, that's right, that's wrong. It's like a little manual inside of you. That's right,
Totally.
that's wrong. And without self-awareness, you assume everyone else has the same manual and is choosing to do the wrong thing versus
Mm.
that's not what's going on in their gut. So I have a dear friend who is a 1 and she's married to a 3. So the ones want to do the right thing for the right reason. 2s want to feel loved and appreciated. 3s want to be productive. So a 3 will always cut a corner if it allows them to finish quickly.
Oh.
But a 1 wants to do the right thing the right way. If they were not self-aware, they would constantly be judging each other in their marriage because their motivations are so very different. And then, again, there's 9 different paths. There's so many great teachers on Instagram. There's lots of books. About 80% of people can find their way using one of these tests that are available. But the Enneagram, because it's so old, was really meant to be shared mentor to mentee, one person at a time. So like your therapist walking with you. And she's very knowledgeable in the Enneagram. She's talking with you. She's helping you, pull back the layers of the onion and discover yourself. So sometimes people take these tests and the test can point out the behaviors, but the Enneagram will show you there's 5 paths of behavior. There's yours. There's the behavior on either side. So if I'm a 2, the 2 on either side are the 1 and the 3. So when I'm with my family of origin, I can look like a 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they really liked in me. They liked me being the good girl, doing the right thing for the right reason. So if I wasn't self-aware and I took the test and I was with them, I might come out of the test looking like a 1. I can be a 2 with a 1 wing, but my real motivation is 2. And so the Enneagram is a little bit complicated, but a simple way to just begin is to know as a human, you think and feel and do. You process life through your gut. I process it through my feeling center, which is what makes me accidentally codependent because I'm feeling all the feelings and I don't want to feel that. So let me change you. And then the third center, which is what my husband is the thinking center. And so if you had 3 Legos, red was for your heart and yellow was for the thinking center and green was for your gut, you would have them in different orders based on which of the 9 numbers you are. And when people think and feel and do life in the same way, it makes relationship easier. And when they're very different, it can make relationships really hard. So sometimes that's what parents notice is as their children start growing, they think and feel and do life very different than their parent. And without self-awareness, you start judging each other instead of saying, oh, how beautiful. You do it this way. I do it this way. And so I do love that about the Enneagram. So that's why I became an Enneagram coach. I wanted it first for me. And then it helped my marriage, my adult children relationship so much. And then I was using it throughout my leadership because I rarely think first. I am a very smart person. I can read quickly. I can discern information, but I think last. So my favorite story about this is my husband's a thinker. He's an engineer. I'm an educator at heart. We go for a walk. We hear a car coming behind us. I feel scared, so I move. And then I think, which way would be the right way to move? He thinks, what's the right way to move? Then he moves, and then he feels scared. And so I look like a squirrel. And if we didn't have self-awareness, we would constantly be judging each other.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think it's a great tool. But again, it's one of those, like you said, like, okay, I have this information. Now what do I do with it? This is great. Thank you so much. And I think not knowing what to do with it, I like slapped my own little sticker on. I'm like, I'm a 1, but I don't really know what that means
One of the
besides.
most important things for ones to know is that your information is coming from your gut. And so learning to trust your own somatic experience is so huge. And so that's like a great thing for therapists to help people process is like trusting your gut when so much of America is like, but where does it say that in the book? Or what's the evidence for it? You growing in that own self-awareness. And then the important thing for 8s, 9s, and 1s to know is not only you're processing life through your gut, anger is the emotion that's helping you get clarity. And so anger is good. Now, rage, frustration, all of that, not good. But anger is like you sort of waking up and saying, I wonder what my body's trying to tell me here. Twos, threes, and fours, we need to be aware of like the fine line between guilt and shame. And five, sixes, and sevens need to notice the difference between like fear and future focused like dread. So the
Mm.
information comes in these different, groups. So if you're a two, three, or four, just notice when you're starting to feel shame. Shame says there's something about you that's not 100% valuable. So not true, right? Do
Mm.
the work. Be like, I'm just a human having a human experience. If you start to notice guilt, maybe work on that piece, right? Because you did something that
Yeah.
maybe stop doing. And five, sixes, and sevens, notice if you're in fear, which is like there's a bear coming at you, go inside. Or is it dread? Here's all the things that could go wrong. Sevens, even though they're experiencing that, they'll just reframe it instantly. Oh, this is what could go wrong, but instead I'll go over here. So the first piece of the information that the Enneagram is going to tell you is, am I like in my gut enough to really understand? And it's so funny when people are not self-aware, you can tell by the words they use
Mm.
what they might be. So eights, nines, and ones will often say, I know. Twos, threes, and fours will often say, I feel. And five, sixes, and sevens will often say, I think. And so that might be something
Interesting.
for you to ask your friends. Hey, could you notice for me? Because it's hard sometimes to see. And then what does that piece of information tell me? How can I lean in and trust that? If that's how I'm
Mm.
processing life, how can I trust that? And that, of course, is where like therapists and coaches can be so incredibly helpful.
The gut thing so resonates with me because that's one thing I've always trusted. And I know if I
Mm.
need to sleep on a decision, I'm going to allow myself to do that because I'll wake up in
Oh,
the morning and I will know, or
I
it's an
love that.
immediate, or it's an immediate, like, nope, this is just what it is. Full body,
Oh,
yes or no.
amazing.
But the critical piece, never heard that before.
Oh,
Thank
that the
you.
little voice.
Yeah, or like you're like, how many, what's wrong in your room? And I now, if I have people over, I'm like, oh, please pardon this, please pardon that. Like, I'm like, if I point it out first, they won't judge me,
Oh,
It's like,
interesting. And if they're not a one, they're not seeing it.
what? Oh my gosh. You know how much
And
freedom you
it's so
just gave me?
helpful for your daughters growing up if they're not ones, right?
Mm,
Because we tend to just expect that what's easy for us is easy for everyone.
yeah.
What's hard for us is hard for everyone. The way we think and feel and do life is how everyone else does it. And so as you grow in it, Suzanne Stabile has some really great books. And one is called The Path Between Us, and she takes each number and partners it with a different number. So if you're a one and your daughter grows up to be a four, usually somewhere between 10 and 20 you start to notice things, but we offer that like around 20 when you're no longer in your family of origin and you're doing some like healthy work. That's easiest, because you can be, if you have like a social instinct, you can be influenced by your family. It's a very nuanced tool. Some people are going to find their path so quickly. And some
Yeah.
people are going to have thoughts about the number and they're going to try to like work around it to see. So that's why the test isn't always the best. But it helps you to really see, oh, I'm a two and I'm married to a six. Here's some of the things that make our relationship easy. We're both compliant. Neither of us is coming with aggressive energy. You're also compliant. Ones, twos, and sixes are compliant. And what that means is we will look to the left and the right and be like, would you like me to try this? Should I do this over here? Four, fives, and nines have what's called a withdrawn energy, and think of them as like two little stop signs. And
Mm,
you're like, would you like to do this? They're like, nope, nope.
yeah.
And when you're a compliant parent, like my husband and I are, and you have either withdrawn or aggressive children, it's very hard to understand them because
Right.
we wouldn't have done that. But
Right.
my two of my children are 3, 7, 8. All three of them, sorry, are what's called assertive to aggressive energy. They
Wow.
will say what they want and they will go get it. And I
Hmm.
remember when my third daughter was born, I'd already had two little kids under 4, and she's just learning to crawl and she's scooting herself across the room on her bum. And I'm like, I'm so thankful she's holding space with these two because they all have this really aggressive energy. Um, it was just a great thing to know as they were becoming teenagers. They're going to think and feel and do life differently than I do. And if they can know themselves, they can advocate for themselves, they can rest really well. So you might notice maybe your daughters are ones and all of you are trying to do the right thing for the right reason, or they might think, feel, and do life differently. And they don't have the little critical voice in their head. So they're never hearing what you're hearing. So they're not
Mm.
trying to be, because when a one sees somebody leave a grocery cart, they can't even understand, why wouldn't you just walk the 10 steps and put it there? Maybe the person's a 3, they're just trying to be productive, get to the next thing. Maybe they're a 7, they're like, someone else would love to do this. Like they just think, feel, and do life differently.
Mm, yeah, I think my 7-year-old, she just turned 7 this month, but I think she's a 1. And
Yeah.
it's interesting for her to voice her observations, and it's like,
I agree with you. I think very similarly. However, we just have to allow them to have their experience, that we're going to
I
have ours
love
over
that. What
here.
a gift. We can
Yeah.
help. You're letting your children when they're small say we can allow everyone else to have their experience, and they're not using any of their sweet little girl energy trying to make other people feel happy or
Mm,
hurt. Oh, it's so
yeah.
good.
Trying. It's a practice because it's new for me too, within the last year to be like, oh, I don't have to do all those things, and I don't have to be everything to everybody, and I don't have to make sure everybody's smiling, and we're all going to be okay.
Yes. Because you know what's wonderful? Once you start to do a little work, the Enneagram 4 is deep in their feelings and they love all the feelings. So you could
Hmm.
be trying to make somebody smile who really loves feeling angst, who really loves feeling sad, because it's a beautiful, deep feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's the other gift. You're like, oh, they might not even want this thing that I think they want.
Oh
I'm
my
going to let them
gosh.
have their experience.
Right. Oh, do you have a favorite tool that you suggest for people who are getting started? Where I don't even remember where I went back in the day to
So
find
the
out.
Enneagram Institute is a website that people, lots of really great information. On Instagram, I love Enneagram Ashton. I think she's
Okay.
fabulous. For podcasts, I love the We Can Do Hard Things podcast with Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach.
Yeah.
They've had both Suzanne Stabile on, they've had Enneagram Ashton on.
Okay.
I became an Enneagram coach for that reason. So you can come to my website and
Yes.
do one-to-one work with me. But we're so lucky to live in a day and age where all of this information is accessible. Just know that the Enneagram wasn't meant to be like a one and done little quiz. It's not a
Yeah.
party tool.
It's on a
Some people
BuzzFeed.
frustrate, right? Because some people really are. They're so, it's not just your 9 Enneagram paths, there's these 3 instincts that drive behavior. So you're starting with a 27 different path beginning spot. And so sometimes the instinct and the number overlap, and it makes it super easy to find your number. And sometimes they don't. And because of that, it can be kind of hard to find your path. And
Mm.
if you end up with the wrong path, you're
Mm.
going to be doing all the wrong work.
Hmm.
If you're taking the quiz and you're in a very stressed state, you might be behaving like a different number. And so that's not going to serve you either. So when I started doing my work, I didn't know if I was a 1, a 2, or a 9. It took me about 6 months of really trying. I didn't know myself. And I got so rewarded for my 1 behavior. And I got so rewarded for being a peacemaker that I didn't know myself. And I
Mm.
couldn't instantly just take the test and know what my answer was. Once I found my way to my number, then it all started to make sense. So, except for the Enneagram 7, when you find your number, you're probably going to feel a little uncomfortable. You're going to feel a little seen.
Oh.
Sevens are in the thinking center, but they often reframe to positive. And so right away, they might be kind of happy with it. So I'll just give you a brief overview of the 9, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Number 1 wants to do the right thing for the right reason in the gut and compliant. So you're often looking to the left and the right. What do you think I should do? The 2, heart-centered, feeling your feelings, feeling other people's feelings. You want to be loved. The Enneagram 3 in the feeling center, but so good at putting their feelings in a box so they can be productive, but highly aware of everyone else's feelings. So
Hmm.
you can like sense when people walk in before they say anything. And the goal of a 3 is to be productive. They have what's called assertive to aggressive energy. Like you walk in a room with a 3 and you'll know they're there. The 4 is in the feeling center, but they're really aware of their feelings and they're trying to find beauty. And so there are poets and there are artists, and they have a withdrawn energy. 4s, 5s, and 9s, they are not going to use any extra energy. They're going to hold on to it. And if things get a lot, they're going to withdraw. If things get a lot for 3, 7, 8, they're going to push and become aggressive. And 1s, 2s, and 6, if things start to feel a lot, they become compliant. And that explains why you stayed in your roles for a long time. You were compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Your gut is saying this is not a good fit, and everyone else is like, you can do it if you try harder. You can do it if you spent more hours. You can do it if you spent more energy. If you were a different number, you would have had more of a pushback, but because you were compliant energy, you kept complying and trying to make something that wasn't working work. So
Yes.
that is hard once you
Yes.
realize that
Yes.
other people don't do that. They don't.
Right. Right.
And then, so a 5, 6, and 7, you're all in the thinking center. You're going to try to use logic in your brain to make sense of the world. 5s, you're going to withdraw and hold on to your little bit of energy, and you're going to go really deep in things you enjoy. So think of that professor at your university, kind of quirky, but really knew like United States history, probably a
Yeah.
5. Not going to use a lot of energy for things outside of what they think is important. So not going to waste time with small talk. Enneagram 6 is you're trying to be safe. And so with your compliant energy, you're looking to the left and the right. What do I need? Using your brain to be very logical. The 7s, you're going to use your brain to say, what's the most optimistic, amazing possibility out there? You're the life of the party until you are depleted. My middle daughter, the one who's on her 3rd career, everything's going to work out. Allows you to be really, really brave,
Yeah.
but also, optimism at sometimes needs a little realism, right? So self-awareness. And
Right.
then the Enneagram 8 in the body center, assertive energy. When it's in a man, they're almost always in leadership. When it's in a female body, depending on the people around her, she might hear all kinds of words about what kind of person she is, because she is strong and she is determined, and in her gut, she knows what to do. And then the 9, also in the gut, trying to make peace, but willing to keep peace. And what happens then is they don't listen to themselves at the expense of themselves. One of my favorite 9s used to tell a story. He hated olives on his pizza, but if they went out to pizza, he would never say anything because he's keeping the peace instead of simply saying, I don't want olives on my pizza. And so 9s have this gift. They can see the value of every single idea. Also a struggle, because then where do you say yes and no if you can see the value of everything? So the Enneagram is just going to give you some self-awareness. And then from that place, you get to go to conferences, read books, be around other people, go to therapists who are Enneagram informed, and really develop quite quickly clear self-awareness about yourself. And if you are a mom, it's one of the biggest gifts you'll ever give yourself. Why do I think, feel, and do life the way I do? And then it's going to give you grace, because the chances that all your children are exactly like you is pretty small. And like you said, you might have a child who does think and feel and do life the way you do. That's going to make that relationship naturally feel easier. But what if the ones who think, feel, and do life differently are just the best complement to your life? My Enneagram 8 daughter is the one who pushed back and said, what are you going to do? I'm not going to let you be compliant. I'm not going to let you lean back. You were made for something important. I'm going to go push you forward. What if I didn't allow that to be part of who she was?
Right.
The whole world would be missing out on her gifts.
Oh my gosh.
So I love the Enneagram. Yeah.
So powerful. I do wonder if you could shed some light on, I mean, are we born this way, or is this shaped by our experiences? If we had a less than desirable childhood, is that coming into play in our
So a really
Enneagram?
interesting nature nurture thing, and having been a mom myself, right, is I think the assertive, compliant, withdrawn energy comes with the soul. So when
Okay.
I held all 3 of my children, they had different energy than I did. I'm just telling you
Yeah.
that. And I've talked to many moms who are Enneagram aware and have different children, and they're like, this one just kind of was like a withdrawn, and this one was kind of compliant, and this one was like aggressive, assertive, picking their head up from the beginning, kind of knew what they were doing. So I think those 3 parts of who we are might come with life.
Okay.
And then somewhere around 2 to 5, somebody says something, does something, and that's what you put on that personality over your soul. So you're a little girl and you're doing all your things. Someone comes in and says, oh my goodness, Shannon, what a good girl you are. You do so many things so good. We just love that about you. And you're like, I like that.
Yeah.
I could be over here and trying to stay safe, or I could go over here and try to find love. But I think I want to keep hearing that good girl. I love that. I'm going to listen to that little critic. And if it criticizes me, I'm going to go fix it. And so nature, nurture, probably always in every part of who we are. But I do think this is just me connecting with lots of moms who held babies. Babies sometimes feel like different energy just from the very beginning. You have some who feel like strong and assertive, and some who feel kind of just very compliant, and some who feel almost like a withdrawn, holding on to their little energy. And so I guess we'll find out someday, but it does seem to be somewhere between 2 and 5 is where we start to notice these personality traits in our children.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. My little one just turned 2 in January, and she is, she is something else for sure.
He has some more assertive energy than you, perhaps.
Yes, very much so. Yes.
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 And so you might notice, so if she hears enough, so an Enneagram 3, right, is going to be like, oh my gosh. So my little Enneagram 3 is my 3rd daughter. You're so great at puzzles. You're so smart. You're reading so easily. Like those words spoken over her made her pick like, okay, I'll put this personality on. And my firstborn daughter, like having to feel like firstborn, be brave, go change the world. My middle daughter, putting on this optimistic, happy. I can remember she was a baby though, and we were in a grocery store somewhere. And if she made somebody laugh, she just loved it. And she wasn't like a baby because she could talk, and she kept trying to get the person behind her to laugh, and they didn't. And she was like, they didn't laugh. Like it was just a
Oh,
part of her from like babyhood, you know? And
yeah.
so it is really interesting that you're noticing my energy and this daughter who's 2, we're just different. So if you keep trying to make her compliant, when she came to this world to be a force, to be assertive, and you can help her like trust and believe that this is really good, because
Yeah.
unfortunately, that assertive energy often is rewarded in boys
Yes. Oh, I
and
can see
not
the
rewarded in
difference.
girls.
Definitely.
And so you get to be like, no, this is great.
Yes.
Here's all the
Yes.
examples of strong women. You're going to be one of them.
Yes. I love
Yeah,
that so much.
exciting.
Yes. Oh, I know. And I love it. I'm like, tell me no. I mean, please quit trying to jump off the couch and please eat a vegetable every once in a while. But like, I will have the discourse with you. This is healthy.
I
Totally.
love.
But I know we have our own programming too, where we're like, but I know it'll just be safer for you if you
Oh
stay
my
over here,
goodness. So
especially me, right?
can
As
you just say
compliant.
that? That's so funny. So my oldest daughter, I wanted to just bubble wrap her through life, and she was created to do all of these amazing things. She's like traveling the world and doing all these things, and
Mm,
I just wish I had known when she was little, she wasn't meant to be bubble wrapped. Like
right.
she just wants to jump and ski and run and build and go on adventures, and she gets to do that now, and it's so exciting.
I love
And my
that.
job as a mom is not to put any of my fear energy in her direction, because that doesn't serve her at all. How dishonoring,
Right.
right? Oh,
Right.
yeah. So I love that
Yeah.
for you. You're like, yes, we're gonna need to eat some vegetables, but
I
you
know.
go.
I know. Oh my gosh. And I love going back to where you said, who are we to impede on their journey and what they're here to
Yeah.
learn,
Who are
right?
we to know what they came here to
Yeah.
learn? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Just letting them have their experience too, and just hoping that
Yes.
we instill enough values of and
What we instill is love, right? Like we are
yeah.
the safe landing place.
Yeah.
When we love ourselves enough to take good care of ourselves, it like kind of goes back to the beginning. When we love ourselves to say emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, do I have the toolbox to take care of myself and pour back into myself? And then we are just these bright beacons of love. They can't help but want to be. Like that's what I celebrate now on the other side of raising children, is they can't
Mm,
help but want to like reach out and be together.
so
And so
sweet.
that's our work, is like to stay aligned in
Yeah.
love for ourselves so that others are drawn to it instead of us chasing them down from this depleted, overwhelmed state.
Mm, so much magic in what you just said. And it all comes back to love, right? Loving
Yeah.
yourself and yes. Oh, I love it so much. Okay. I could talk to you for hours, but I
I know. I hope
know.
we stay friends. This was very fun.
Please, 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 please. So I do like to ask all of my mom guests a few of the same questions. So first, what didn't you expect motherhood to change or shake up in you?
Well, I didn't expect it to help me become this amazing version of me. I'm so thankful I was open and receptive to learning from them. They
Yes.
are the reason I was able to go onto this path, because they were presenting like me this opportunity to grow. And I'm so thankful for that. I never knew that was going to happen when I became a mom.
Right? I know. I know the amount that I've learned about myself and about the
Yes.
world. Oh my gosh. Huge. And you are not the first person to come on and say, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't
Right.
for my experience with them and through them.
Yeah.
So good. So good. If you could give one piece of advice to another mother at any stage of the motherhood game, what would it be?
It would be figure out your answer to this formula. If you rest and then play, then work, what does that look like for you in those 3 different words? So, what does rest look like for you?
Mm.
What does play look like? And then what does work look like? Because in each season, it's going to be different. So, some seasons, rest is going to look like literally on Sundays, I need a 3 hour nap. So, when I was a young mom on Mother's Day, I didn't go visit my own mom and I didn't spend time with my children. I locked myself in my room. My husband made lunch and I watched HGTV all day. I wish I did that once a month. I would have been a
Love
better mom.
that.
So rest really well. Figure out what's fun. You were saying we forget what we want to eat. We forget where we like going. In Julia Cameron's The Artist Way book, she
Mm.
calls it an artist date. Figure
Yeah.
out what you enjoy and do that. And you'll know you have enough energy to work if you feel like playing. If you don't feel like whatever it is that feels like play to you, you need more rest. So rest,
Yes.
then play, then work.
Oh, I love that, which is so opposite of
Right.
our culture here. They're like, work, 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 maybe go to sleep at a decent hour, and then maybe play for an hour or two on the weekends. Oh my gosh. I love that. Can you imagine if we all just shifted our
I
thinking?
want this for us, don't you? I want
Right?
this for us. Yeah,
Yes, yes. I think we're kind of at a tipping point,
I do
where
too.
the pendulum's kind of swinging back from the other side of
I love TikTok for that reason.
COVID.
It is telling all the
Yes.
girls,
Yes,
go
but
to
we're
fair
all
play.
pushing back, right? We're like, no, 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 we're not doing that. And I think especially
Yes.
Gen Z, where they're
I
like,
love it for them.
it's not working out for the people older than me. I'm not signing
Right.
up for that.
Love it so much.
They are going to be amazing mothers.
Yep.
I can't. Or if they choose to be
And
mothers, of
amazing
course.
fathers. I love
Yes.
watching men who are younger step up to the plate like they are
Yeah.
and own the fact that this is a team. And I see it
Yeah.
all over the place and I love it.
Yeah. Oh, goosebumps all over. There's hope for us. There's hope for us yet, people. And lastly, how do you reconnect to yourself in motherhood?
So I really believe in the idea of Sabbath, which is that 24 hours a day. I mean, for 24 hours, for one day, every single week, we were created to rest. And so I happen to work for a veterinarian who is Jewish, and I'm not sure she would do such good work if she didn't honor Sabbath. So Sabbath would say from sundown to sundown, and I really like that. So you get to the end of whatever day it is. Some people it's Tuesday night, some people it's Saturday night, and you rest. And then when you wake up from that rest, you do whatever fills you up with joy. And my little mantra when my girls were younger was on my Sabbath day, on my day of rest, I would rest until I was no longer tired. And some days, I'm not kidding, I needed like 2 small naps. I was so tired some weeks. But that would be the most important thing, is for you to realize that you can't do 24/7 on repeat without a break. And the hardest part is when you're a mom, your vacations become trips.
Yeah.
So when you were just young and fun and you went on a vacation, you ate what you wanted to eat, you went where you wanted to go. When you have small children or older children or children who bring friends along, that vacation is now a trip. There's a beginning and there's an end and there's a plan, but it's not restful. So try to find whatever it is that you need to rest or recover. I guess it all goes back to self-care is not selfish. Figure out what you need and make sure you do a lot of that, and you'll never regret it. Like, the healthier you are, the whole world benefits.
Yes. Oh my gosh. My husband and I were just talking about this because it's almost spring break here for the, K-12 schools. And I'm like, I would love to go somewhere. And I love my children, but I don't want to go parent my children in another location. Like, that is
No.
not what I want right now.
You and your
right?
husband should go have a vacation, and then when you go with your kids, it's a trip.
Yeah, exactly. You're so right. And I'm glad you see that more on social media where people are like, it's not a vacation if your
It
children
is not
are
a vacation.
coming.
Right. But don't you deserve a vacation once a year or
Yeah,
twice a year, right?
Totally. And it doesn't have to be a big long thing either. It could just be going somewhere else. I mean, that's amazing if you can, but if all you can swing
What
is a
else
weekend.
can be your kids go to? So we had really great friends. We had 3 girls, they had 3 girls, and we would trade every other weekend for a night. And so we could go to a movie and we'd have our own house to ourselves and we could eat whatever we wanted to. And they were having fun with their friends, but we knew that, like, we would be alternating and we would have basically a vacation, but it would be in our own home. So it doesn't even have to be you need to get to an island. You just need a break.
Right.
You need
Exactly.
to like doing.
Right. Oh, that is so good. And I don't think we give ourselves like the permit. We're like, oh, no.
Right.
Like, that, what is that actually going to help? And you're like, but if
And
you
my kids
do
look
it.
back and they loved those
Yeah.
sleepover weekends. They loved it. Now, again, everyone's very careful with sleepovers, so maybe you just want to do till 8 o'clock,
But
Yeah.
even still, if you can go have an adult dinner somewhere and an adult beverage,
Right?
come back, put your kids to bed.
And you deserve it.
Exactly. Oh,
Absolutely.
I love that so much. Okay. Give us all the information. How can people find you? How can they work with you?
Oh, thanks. So yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Kelly Tibbitts Life Coach. I have a podcast called Live a Vibrant Life where I try to share my coaching tools. And my website is kellytibbitts.com. My real goal is I want moms to be able to afford having a life coach because my life coach changed my life. And so I have a group coaching program that is $45 a month or $400 a year so that you can come live every single week and be poured into, like we were with Kathy Heller, where somebody is like reminding you that you are worth it. And so, yeah, that's my hope, that every single mom will find a community. There's so much evidence that the 5 people we spend the most time with really, truly impact us. So find those women who are on the same path as you are for self-awareness, for self-care, for self-love. And we are going to continue to like raise the ocean, right? Of filling this world with more love.
Oh my gosh. First of all, your pricing is insane.
Well, because I want every mom who isn't at that point yet, right?
No, I mean, what a gift, right? What a
Yeah,
gift.
right.
If people
And
don't
I'm able to do
know-
that. My kids are grown.
Oh
My life is
gosh.
good. So I can offer that as a gift.
If you are not aware of coaching prices, like it's basically free what
It's
Kelly is
basically
offering,
free.
okay? But the power of community is insane. And anyone who knows my story at all, we've lived in this area for almost 3 years. not from here originally and moved in the middle of COVID and then had a baby. And like, we still don't have a lot of people here, but the
Yeah.
people I have met through Kathy's world, like some of them I talk to more than my in real life friends, you
Because they're
know?
filling our soul. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. So don't
Yeah, and I'm so glad we
discredit.
met because I want to be one of those. I loved our conversation.
I love it. I know I've had so many juicy, incredible conversations from the women in that world, and it's no mistake. And I'm so thankful that you poured into all of us today, Kelly. This has been such a joy and a pleasure.
So fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I know how busy you are as a mom, so I appreciate you taking your precious time to join us here today. If you haven't already, please be sure to follow the podcast, and if you love what you're hearing, go ahead and give it a 5-star review so that we can spread the word to other mamas who may appreciate what we're doing over here. Give me a follow on Instagram at Having a Mom Moment, and you can check out the links in my link tree for any upcoming events or offerings that I have. In case someone has told you today, you are amazing, you are loved, and I am so proud of you. I hope you have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time.